Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a pretty serious social crisis that's on the horizon. And no, it's not about killer robots. It's about a deep, fundamental economic threat from AI, and the thing is, it's not some far-off future problem. It's happening right now, powered by the quiet hum of servers.
So, let's really get into this because all the sources we're looking at today, they're pointing to the same thing. The biggest threat from AI isn't some rogue superintelligence taking over. Nope. It's a really brutal economic shift that's already started.
And at the heart of all this is one single really powerful idea that's basically fracturing our society. Okay, so you really need to get this one concept in your head because it is everything. It's called vaporization. And listen, this is not just your classic automation taking a few jobs story. No way. This is about the complete destruction of the economic models that whole countries have built their economies on. Revenue doesn't just shift over to a competitor. It just evaporates. It vanishes into thin air, and it's replaced by code.
Think about it. For, over a century? The value of pretty much all knowledge work has been tied to a person's time, the good old billable hour. Well, AI comes along and just snips that cord completely. Now, value is measured in something called tokens, which are basically the units of work for an AI model. So what does that mean? It means human time is out and machine thinking time is in.
All right, so how does this whole vaporization thing actually play out in the real world? And, I think more importantly, who gets hit first? Who are the first casualties here?
This table just lays it out so clearly. The old world versus the new. Just look at that row for scalability. In the traditional model, growth is linear, right? If you want to do more work, you have to hire more people. Simple. But with the AI model, the growth is exponential, and the cost to do one more thing, the marginal cost, is basically zero. You just throw more computing power at it. And this right here, this is the key. It completely decouples economic growth from creating jobs.
And look, this is not some academic theory. That number you're seeing, $280 billion. That is the value of India's entire IT and business process outsourcing sector. I mean, we're talking about an engine of economic mobility for millions of people, an entire industry built on that billable hour we just talked about. And now, it's facing a very real risk of just being vaporized.
And we're already seeing the human cost of this. The data is pretty stark. It's showing a 13% drop, that's a sharp drop, in jobs for young people and the roles that are most exposed to AI, things like entry-level coding. So the displacement isn't on its way, it's here, right now.
So, you might be asking yourself, wait a minute, why is this happening when companies are pouring billions into AI? Well, it's this paradox called the productivity J-curve, and right now we're in the absolute worst part of it, the bottom of the curve, what they call the investment valley. Companies are cutting their old costs, which, let's be honest, means people, to pay for these huge AI investments. The pain of job loss is happening now, but all those promised benefits, they're still years down the road.
So this displacement, it's not just about jobs disappearing. It's creating this absolutely unsustainable divide in wealth. It's like a modern tale of two fortunes. So on the one hand, you have entry-level jobs just getting vaporized. And on the other, well, this is the kind of money being thrown around at the very, very top. $100 million. That's the size of the retention bonuses reportedly being offered to a tiny elite group of top AI researchers. The sources we looked at actually have a name for this group, a new AI priesthood. We're talking about maybe a few hundred people on the entire planet whose skills are so valuable, their pay has just completely broken away from any kind of normal economic logic. It's less like a job market and more like the economics of, say, a superstar athlete. And this concentration of talent doesn't just create a wealth gap, it creates a dangerous feedback loop that makes the gap even bigger, as all the best minds get sucked into this tiny, incredibly powerful circle.
And what's really fascinating here is that this isn't just a problem between the companies and the rest of the world. A kind of capital versus labor divide is actually growing inside the big AI companies. You've got the elite researchers getting these multi-million-dollar bonuses, while the rest of the staff, the engineers, the policy teams, everyone else, they're left with very little. And in some cases, they were even blocked from selling their own stock.
So, whenever you get this much wealth and power concentrated in one place, you know what comes next, right? Massive new battles over who gets to control the technology. So let's take a look at who these new power brokers really are.
Okay, so there's this huge power struggle brewing between the federal government and the states. On one side, you've got the Federal AI Action Plan, which is basically pushing for radical deregulation. The goal? To win the global AI race, no matter what. But then you have states like California pushing back, passing laws for safety and transparency. And what you end up with is this split,
what some sources are calling red AI versus blue AI. It's a fundamental conflict that looks like it's heading straight for the Supreme Court.
But what's really wild is how the average person, you and me, is structurally locked out of all this wealth being created. There are these old, outdated rules, specifically one called ERISA, that pretty much stop public pension funds, your retirement money, from investing in these early-stage AI companies. So what happens? The public can only get in on the action after the IPO, long after all that massive exponential growth has already happened. It's like being invited to a birthday party, but you're only allowed to show up after all the cake has been eaten.
So if the public is locked out, who fills that investment gap? Well, this chart says it all. You can see that tiny little sliver for public pension funds? They're completely sidelined. So the new kingmakers, the ones funding American AI, are foreign sovereign wealth funds and, of course, private venture capital.
And this is the really crucial point here. All that incredible wealth being generated by American innovation, it's not going to the retirement funds of American teachers or firefighters. Nope. It's being sent overseas to foreign governments. And they aren't just getting a financial return on their investment, they're gaining strategic control over the future of this critical technology.
Okay, so this path we're on, it's clearly not sustainable. But the sources we've been looking at, they argue it doesn't have to be this way. There is another path. We're at a fork in the road, and we can still choose which way to go.
Now, these are not simple, easy fixes, but they're really powerful ideas, and they're all focused on this concept of pre-distribution, which basically means giving everyone a stake from the very beginning. For instance, universal basic compute. The idea is to treat processing power like a public utility, like water or electricity, giving every citizen a slice of the AI infrastructure. Then there's data dividends. That would mean you actually get paid for the raw material that fuels all these models, which is, of course, your data. And finally, just modernizing those old investment rules like ERISA would finally let public pension funds get in on the ground floor and share in that massive financial upside.
And ultimately, it all comes down to this one question. This is the central political question that's going to define the next decade. As we finally start to climb up that J-curve and all of AI's productivity gains start to kick in, who owns the upside? Who gets the benefits? Because if the answer is still just a tiny group of private investors and foreign governments, then the vaporization of jobs could very well be followed by the vaporization of social stability itself. And really, that's what's at stake.